Hi everybody, welcome back to Sound Approach. I am Trevor Williams, and today we're going to be talking about the Triangle Borea BR04 bookshelf speakers. Let's get into it. Music should have an impact. When I'm listening on a factory system like something pre-installed in my car, there's often a veil over the music, making it very one-dimensional and not as enjoyable. All the sounds of the instruments and vocals and bass come from the very same spot, and it's very thin in its dimensionality. Granted, I don't have very high expectations for the performance of my car stereo. I just like to jam out and ignore all the poor attempts at driving I see on a daily basis. Definitely makes me feel better and prevents road rage. Anyways, before working at Sound Approach, this wasn't something that I cared about, or if I'm being honest, even noticed, unless there was an issue with the signal causing static or distortion. However, after years of experience in testing of high-end audio gear, it's definitely something I pay attention to now, and definitely something I saw with the Triangle Borea BR04s. These are an extremely versatile speaker and perform exceptionally well, both at their price point and above that. What I enjoyed most was the imaging and transparency I perceived on certain tracks like Phil Collins' In the Air Tonight or Jack Garratt's Breath. Breathe, breath, breathe, breathe. I'm a big fan of classic rock and modern acoustic, alternative rock, Burberry acoustic, that sort of thing. And these speakers met my expectations and then some. Not only on my preferred genres, but across every genre I listen to. Rock, jazz, classical, orchestral, rap, even heavy metal, which isn't my usual cup of tea. But this was at a commenter's suggestion, so I could respond to how it sounded on these speakers. When I first listened to In the Air Tonight, I couldn't get over how Phil Collins was set directly to the front and above the speaker height and exactly centered between the speakers. Even when I stuck my head between the speakers and over the amplifier right here, I couldn't perceive the sound as coming from the woofers. His voice was literally floating on air and came through with crystal clear clarity and depth. And then when the beat drops, it's no stranger to you and me. It was even more engaging as the drum kick rolled from the left to right speaker with absolutely no break in illusion. These speakers are transparent and incredibly engaging. More than anything, I just wanted to listen to the next track, which to me is the best praise I can get. It also had a really wide soundstage, probably about a foot outside either speaker. Now, looking at the specifications, we see an easy to drive 110 watts RMS with 90 dB sensitivity. The BR04 has one 6-inch woofer with a paper cone and a 1-inch silk dome tweeter with a propeller-shaped nose plug for dispersion. I was most impressed with the frequency range of 44 Hz to 22 kHz, which is really detectable in the lows, bringing a layer of depth and dimensionality to the performance of these speakers and really hit the high notes well so you can get that sibilance. Some speakers are harsh, some are bright, some are tight, and some are loose. But I would classify the BR04 as being on the warmer side of neutral and extremely tight and dynamic. The mid-range was three-dimensional, and the bass performance added flavor to the vocals and drums. Now, while these aren't bone-shaking bass blasters, Triangle has managed to provide a subtle touch of bass that amplifies the depth of the music, indicative of the larger front port used versus the BR03's design. As I said, in this way, they're very three-dimensional. And I'm discovering why the BR04 has become so popular amongst casual listeners and dedicated audiophiles alike. My favorite aspect of the performance is the ability to scale. The BR04 speakers have a floor of performance that is steps ahead of any other speaker that I've listened to in the same price range. And I honestly can't think of anything else in this price range that is half as good in sound quality. Quad has a few options, and we've had clients comment about the Omega bookshelf speakers as well. But for me, these are the best performing speakers I've heard in the $500 to $1,000 range. Now, with that said, that's the floor of performance paired with a cheap amplifier or receiver, which allows consumers to have a fully functional system that performs well for around $1,000 in price. However, this says nothing about the ceiling of performance. My test rig is now running a Cambridge Audio Evo 150 all-in-one unit, and we just purchased this item specifically for my test rig so I can compare and contrast speakers of all prices moving forward. Before it arrived, however, we had an open box AVM CS2.3 integrated amp and CD player that retails for $7,000, which is over twice the price of the Evo. Now that price is much too high to fairly test $650 speakers, and I felt disingenuous about my review, concerned that the performance of the AVM unit was overshadowing the speakers. However, it did allow me to experience the level of performance that the BR04s are capable of. The aforementioned imaging and transparency is apparent with both the Evo 150 and the CS2.3, but it's an order of magnitude better with the more expensive AVM unit. What this means, though, is that the Triangle Borea BR04 speakers allow high-end audio consumers to scale their system and reap the rewards of future upgrades without having to pack up the speakers and spend boatloads of cash to replace every aspect of their system. Not all speakers, especially ones in this price range, can scale and adapt to more expensive equipment that show the different levels of performance that are possible when you upgrade things like your power, your DAC streamer, analog source, whatever. The BR04s are in a world of their own in this regard, and Triangle really hit the bullseye when they produced these speakers as an upgrade to the BR03 and the Connect series. Now, Steve Huff also reviewed these speakers and labeled them as part of the budget line from Triangle, categorized for budget hi-fi or something along those lines. His focus on that was more in his article rather than his YouTube video. But no offense at all meant to Mr. Huff, I actually disagree with the classification that these are budget hi-fi and feel that it's a little unfair because of the negative connotations that are placed on budget-friendly items and options. I'm sure that wasn't his intention, and he was merely highlighting that they're affordable, and they are, retailing at only $650. However, I would classify these speakers as an affordable high-end audio rather than budget-friendly speaker. The reason I make that distinction is because budget-friendly solutions usually require sacrifice in one form or another. Most of the time, that sacrifice is on the crossover and power handling capabilities, which decreases the overall performance and sound quality of the speakers, or they sacrifice performance for convenience. An all-in-one Bluetooth-enabled active speaker can be a budget-friendly solution even if it costs $3,000. And streaming from your phone or Wi-Fi directly to the speaker is both convenient and a completely valid way to enjoy your music. But it is a one-size-fits-all solution focused primarily on convenience and often the bottom line. And no puns about it, the bottom line on the BR04 is quality performance. And Triangle managed to incorporate the best parts of their existing series of products into a very affordable option. The BR04 speakers are also available in many more finishes than have been available on other products from Triangle, ranging from the super popular oak green as well as the chestnut, which we have here, which is a dark wood veneer finish and slate black front face. It's both elegant and minimalistic. It's reminiscent of the previous BR03 with the tweeter and woofer arrangement, but the BR04s boast a larger front port than the BR03s as well as an improved crossover. When so much effort and care has been put into the design and overall performance, I can't overstate their value for the price. I'm very lucky to have had these speakers on my bookshelf for the last couple of weeks, and I'm also going to be able to have these for a few more weeks. I really am looking forward to enjoying them. Beyond testing their initial and out-of-the-box performance, I'll also be taking a look at burn-in and how this can impact the performance. Burn-in is obviously a hot-button issue, and I have my own conflicting opinions on it as a listener and as a retailer, but that's a discussion for another day. Suffice it to say that I will be taking a few extra weeks to burn in the BR04 speakers and review their performance at different time frames so I can set the debate to rest, in my own mind at least. Ultimately, the important takeaway is that you don't have to spend tens of thousands of dollars to have a high-performing system. If you're looking for an upgrade on the older Borea models, a scalable pair of speakers that can match your existing and future equipment, or just an affordable high-end passive speaker option with top-notch performance, I would highly recommend the Triangle Borea BR04 speakers, which are available now at soundapproach.com. I'm going to leave a link down below. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe for more content from Sound Approach. We've got all sorts of videos coming out in the future, new reviews. We'll probably do a review here on the Cambridge Evo 150. I've really enjoyed that unit as well. And we can't thank you enough for joining us. Take care, and we'll see you next time.